Say the objective of this video is to make very clear the true nature of Dr. Ron Paul's foreign policy stance. It has no political affiliation. I'm not trying to sway anybody voting for Dr. Ron Paul. I just would rather like to enlighten two people on his actual stance on foreign policy and why it has been misled and misrepresented by so many in the media. I'm going to dive into Dr. Ron Paul's qualifications pertaining to foreign policy and why I think he has a good base and understanding of foreign policy. He was a military member himself from 1963 to 1968 in the Air Force. He was drafted. He was a flight surgeon. He is a member of Congress for 24 years now, and he is also currently serving on the Congressional Foreign Relations Committee, which is a big deal because he hears a lot of things that we don't hear every day and that aren't recorded. I feel compelled to talk about foreign relations, mostly the part that I'm a U.S. Veteran myself, veteran of the Iraq campaign. I've also taken foreign relations courses. At one time I was a history major, but none of that really matters. But big reason is because of my involvement in the military and the current wars going on right now. To the meat of the foreign relations conversation with Dr. Ron Paul, the word isolationism gets thrown around way too much. There's a big difference between isolationism and non-interventionism. Isolationism basically means that you have no foreign relations. You're completely independent from any agreements, trade, travel, anything have to do with the outside world. Completely independent and on your own, self-reliant completely. Non-interventionism allows a little bit more wiggle room in that it supports free trade, supports travel, and supports good relations. It just warns against too many relations, especially in the finance sector of the relations, and as well as war. Key differences, as I've stated already, the big one is free trade. Non-interventionism, which is what Dr. Ron Paul supports, welcomes free trade with open arms, meaning the NAFTA trade agreement would be supported, plenty of our other agreements with all the other countries around the world and in this worldwide economy would be upheld and supported by Dr. Ron Paul. The big thing that isolationism kills is free trade, but it also completely isolates, as the word says, this nation from the rest of the world, which obviously in the world economy would not be good for this country, and Dr. Ron Paul does not support isolationism. Again, Dr. Ron Paul does not support isolationism. Please pay attention to the words that are being used. Isolationism is an extremist view and is not supported by Dr. Ron Paul. The difference between isolationism and non-interventionism out of the way, hopefully. I would like to discuss a little bit of history and mainly blowback. It's a term that's just been brought to the forefront of foreign policy discussion, mostly by Dr. Ron Paul. It's the unintended consequences of covert operations, particularly pertaining to foreign relations. Excuse me. 1979 was a huge year. We supported the overthrow of the Shah of Iran and also supported the takeover of Iraq by Saddam Hussein. The reason why we supported the overthrow of the Shah of Iran was due to the fear of communist takeover. There was no real evidence that communist takeover was imminent, but fear is huge in that time period, obviously 1979. But the Shah of Iran was actually very anti-communist. He supported women's suffrage, and he also supported in recognizing Israel as a sovereign country. Yes, the Shah of Iran supported recognizing Israel as a sovereign nation. But yet, we still got rid of him. Saddam Hussein was a Ba'athist Party supporter, and we decided we could use him as a puppet and put him into power. Um, Also, the big one, everybody pretty much knows about this one, is our support in funding and weaponizing Al-Qaeda to repel the Russians out of Afghanistan, specifically Osama bin Laden and all of his supporters. We gave them the weapons, we gave them the ability, and they pushed the Russians out and maintained control of that region. And obviously, that didn't work out so well for us. Excuse me again. I'm sorry. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia are also two huge bases we have over in the Middle East, and those two bases really cause angst in the Middle Eastern countries and the Islamic nation, as it is sought as an invasion of American ideals into that area of the world. We have 26 other bases in and around the Middle East, not including Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, do we belong over there? Do we need 28 plus bases in the Middle East? I don't know. That's not for me to decide, but it's a big problem. And if you had 30, right under 30 different bases of U.S. Military influence in that area, blowback is obviously a big cause of what's going on. Over the years, even we've supported Israel's enemies in giving them 2 to 7 times the amount of foreign aid that we give Israel. Okay, so this whole thing about Dr. Ron Paul being anti-Israel and not being an Israeli supporter, it's quite the opposite. He just respects Israel as a sovereign nation and wants to treat them as such and let them do what they need to. When Israel attacked an Iraqi nuclear facility, our Congress deemed that not necessary. But Dr. Ron Paul said, hey, that's not for us to decide. It's Israel's right to do what's right for their nation. And that's what he believes. You've gotten qualifications of Dr. Ron Paul. You've gotten a quick definition and differences of isolationism and non-interventionism, and a quick foreign policy history lesson and introduction to blowback. I would like to give you a few quotes of Dr. Ron Paul's, which I believe quickly outlines what he truly believes about foreign policy. The first and best is, should only go to war when people elect to go to war, meaning Congress and the ones we elected to represent us in Congress to go to war. That hasn't happened since World War II. Every other war, Vietnam, Korea, Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, any other conflict, you want to bring up has not been a constitutional war effort. It has been a dictated military operation. Billions, trillions of dollars down the drain in non-constitutional conflicts or wars. That's crazy. Another one is don't give up liberty for security. The Patriot Act comes to mind in this. The big scare in 9/11 brought this piece of legislation up to the forefront and was passed pretty quickly and unanimously. The Patriot Act delves into our everyday lives and allows a lot of our liberties to be taken up and used against us quite easily, just for the sake of them possibly getting an edge on catching somebody. My argument is that the CIA and FBI already had all those things at their disposal. They didn't need this law to make that happen, and I don't think it makes it easier for them to catch anybody. Personal, I can't give you the facts on that. I'm not an expert in that area. I'm not going to act like I am. And a great quote also from him are, ideas are more powerful than weapons of war. Ideas are what move people. Ideas are what bring together people. Ideas are human. They're what make us human. They're what make us who we are. This just dictates what he truly believes to be the fact that diplomacy can cure a lot. You hear him talk about, we talked to the Russians during the Cold War, we talked to China, we trade with China, but we're not able to talk to Iran or trade with Iran or anything like that. It's just some taboo subject that you can't talk about. Why? Why can't we talk to Iran? Why can't we have open forum discussions with Iran and try to sort out the issues and solve them? Who knows? And here's another quote, or actually more of a one-liner from him. Mutually assured respect. Twist on a different phrase from the Cold War. Mutually assured respect, meaning you respect other nations' sovereignty and they have to respect ours too. Meaning, if they don't respect our sovereignty, we don't need to respect theirs. And it works the same the other way. Okay, so it's not just our respect of their sovereignty. Okay, that's not what Dr. Ron Paul's only concerned about. He's also very concerned about our sovereignty. And if you get into a bunch of treaties with other nations, it starts to erode away at that idea of U.S. sovereignty, because we have to politically deal with all these other nations and to their ideals too, because we are now their allies. It actually hurts us, and it actually restrains us from doing what's best for our nation. And the last quote I would like to give everybody is, tolerance brings people together. I love that quote. It's all about bringing everybody together and getting everybody on the same page, and tolerance is a great way to do that. My last and final comments for this video would be that there's a former NATO commander with the name of General Wesley Clark. If you could look him up and find his stance on foreign policy issues, which he is obviously very qualified to comment on as former NATO commander. He supports a lot of Dr. Ron Paul's ideals and policies regarding foreign policy. And also, last thing I would like to leave you with are politicians that are most like Dr. Ron Paul in foreign policy ideals: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Robert Taft. Thank you very much.